My video for April the 10th, 2018 is entitled Proposed 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. I received this from more than one friend. Quote, Congress shall make no law that applies to the citizens of the United States that does not apply equally to the senators and or representatives. And Congress shall make no law that applies to the senators and or representatives that does not apply equally to the citizens of the United States. End quote. I'm sure they mean well. However, citizen of the United States, as I understand it, is a corporate entity, not a real human being. Corporate entities are under maritime or sea jurisdiction. Human beings are under land jurisdiction. When the capital of the United States was moved from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., they ended up making everyone in the United States a corporate entity. Corporate entities have no human rights, and corporations are not subject to natural law because they are an artificial creation. Corporations are corpses with no human rights whatsoever. We, the people, are dead, and the charlatans have been stealing from all of us for a very long time. We have all been defrauded. Do you understand? Is a loaded question. When you are asked in a so-called court, which is actually not a lawful court, it's a legal fiction court, they mean, do you stand under our jurisdiction? Do you recognize our authority? They do not mean, do you comprehend what we're asking you or saying to you? They don't want our comprehension. They want our subservience, and that's really what it is. They have enslaved all of us with their double speak, double talk that came out of England, that the so-called royal families have been using for a very long time in human history, and they have been enslaving the entire human race, regardless of our religions, regardless of our race, regardless of our skin color, regardless of our gender. They have been absolutely running roughshod over humanity for a very long time. They are a demonic, terrible, malicious, heartless group of beings that have deceived the whole world. And many people that work and mean well, when I say work, they work for the corporation, but they don't understand. They don't comprehend what even that means. And that's most of humanity still hasn't awakened to this reality, still do not understand the doublespeak, do not understand the depth of the lies and the meaning that is placed on words that we think means one thing, but from the rulers, they have another interpretation, another meaning. I do not choose to stand under the jurisdiction of any corporation. If I work for a corporation, and I earn my living that way, I will do the best I can to obey the rules set up by the corporate heads, if you will, because to me, that's a human interaction done for the purpose of survival on a planet of lies. And it is a planet of lies. And until we deal with the root cause of the problem, we will continue to be enslaved. We will continue, no matter how good our intention is, no matter what we may mean by freedom, That's not how our rulers, the slave owners, look at us. They look at us as slave owners look at slaves. Now, under slavery, in the time that the American Declaration of Independence and Constitution and Bill of Rights were created, there were slave owners that were very good to their slaves. And when the slaves were set free in certain places in the United States in history, the slaves chose to just become employees of the slave owners. They had a good working relationship. But the whole thing, folks, the whole scenario that we have been sold, the bill of goods that we have bought into, is fraud. Corporations were created to serve, well, from some people's perspective, corporations were created to serve humanity, not to own humanity, not to take humanity's rights away. But that's exactly what has happened over the course of time in the last few hundred, 200-300 years of, quote, U.S. history. And as the United States, which is a melting pot, people that are in the United States territory, as you would say, have come from all over the world, of every race, from many, many nations. And I don't know about every nation, but many nations. And we are what's called a melting pot, which is not as much true of other countries as it is of the United States. But of course, in our generation, many countries are becoming melting pots because they're exporting people from, especially from the Middle East, to all over Europe, and people from Asia are settling in Africa. And I mean, there is, the whole world is becoming more of a melting pot. But that was the situation for the United States, and the United States could have become a very good thing if we could hold it. As Benjamin Franklin said to the lady when asked, "What have you given us?" "We've given you a constitution, ma'am, if you can keep it." And what they really gave us was the Bill of Rights, which was what Jefferson and others absolutely demanded that become part of the Constitution. It's what preserved not our rights given to us by some king, but they were considered inherent rights in our very being. They were natural rights. And our natural rights have been undermined and stolen, and we have all been manipulated as slaves of a system that is designed to defraud us. It's a system that is in place for the only purpose of stealing our wealth and using it against us. That's why they build the wars. That's why they chemtrail the skies. That's why they set up all these fake courts and have all of these bar attorneys rise to prominent political power in the United States, and it affects the whole world because the United States is at war with the entire world. That's why we have military bases all over the planet in most of the countries, not all of them, but most of the countries, or the major countries, pretty much all have military establishments within them. Now, Russia does not. And certain other countries have resisted this, especially in the Middle East, which is why there's so much war in the Middle East, because they have not allowed military bases to be set up there. They resist this corporate takeover of the entire world, this so-called New World Order. These are things that you and I and all of us need to become very aware of. Thank you for listening, and namaste.